Welcome to Co-op Mode, round 135. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra from beautiful Savage, Minnesota, fighting the good fight, learning about Canadian games, and happy to be joined with some awesome people this week, including my co-host from Parts Unknown. That's the Canadian Mark Carabin. How you doing, buddy?
Oh my goodness, I'm good. I just had a sneeze trying to get that out of the way before you introduced me. I got it out just in time, and then I told everyone about it. If you weren't listening, if you weren't watching the audio, the video version, you didn't need to know about that. But anyone watching the video version, watch me like very quickly scramble to mute my mic and catch up. So I'm happy to be here. I'm curious to learn about these Canadian games that I've never played despite living in Canada my whole life. Weird stuff.
Everybody will learn about a little Canadian custom that is
All
a
right.
foreign to my Canadian co-host. So join in. Mark, find
Yeah.
something really weird American that I might not know about, and that'll be a great like a social exchange.
I'll
Uh,
start
uh,
searching.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mark is here. He's looking sharp tonight, and we are joined by a new friend that's joining the co-op couch this week, and that is Chipotle Bear, aka Jose Martinez, co-host of the Nerd Chat podcast. Jose, nice to meet you, man. Or not to meet you, but have you on the show. But actually, we just met in person. So
Absolutely.
tell us how to help.
It's great to be here, man. Todd mentioned to Mark before we started, we met in the Discord over at Xbox Expansion Pass with Luke and Logan, and have gone back and forth chatting about some cool stuff. And so I was very honored when he reached out to me a couple weeks ago and was like, "Hey, do you want to be on?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I would love to." So, I've gamed for a long time and really kind of relatively new to the podcast space, but loving every minute of it and excited to meet more great people like yourselves, and of course, talk about all things game here, man. So, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Yeah. Always love to have new voices on the podcast. My prerequisite is as long as you're having a conversation with folks, that's all required. So let's have a good time. And at this point, Mark, who makes all of this possible?
Well, I've got some amazing people to tell you about. And that is our friends over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, who are the ones that make all of this possible. You can go over there and get a 7-day free trial right now and join amazing people such as our Friends with Benefits tier, John Sadorf, the Phoenix Sisters cosplay, Brennan Myers, Matthew Keel, and Corey in HD, as well as our BFF tier. That's Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias, and Missy Merchant. Thank you all for helping us out. For anyone interested, if you haven't signed up on our Patreon feed so far, go over and check that out. If you can, you get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get behind the scene, like extra stuff and some other stuff that's early. It's a whole bunch of good stuff. And again, you can get a 7-day free trial over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. If you can't support us over on Patreon, you don't want to throw $1 our way, that's okay. I get it. Totally understand. Times are tough. You know what? You can also help us by just sharing the podcast. Share some links. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Tell a friend. Everything helps. Every single thing. So we appreciate everyone, whether you're on Patreon or not. But special shout out to those people I just mentioned that make stuff happen over on patreon.com/secretfriendsunite.
Yeah. No ads there, folks. So if you're on a regular feed, you're getting ads. If not, on your Patreon feed, you get no ads. Also, we're on YouTube podcasts. So that's another place you can find us. So we'd love it if you just, subscribe and give us a review. We'd love to hear what you think. If you don't think my hair looks good tonight, let me know.
Hogwash, it looks wonderful.
Oh, thank you. But also, it was great because I had one of our Patreons on Spinner Rack. Sean Nias joined me for Batman Fortress, a great comic limited series by Gary Whitta, who wrote Rogue One. So if you like things like that and breaking down comics, more to come on our Patreon. So please enjoy.
Yeah.
All right. Pitch is done. Now it's time to get into the fun. This week for Buy Rent Return, I had to even re-clarify before I had even gotten into the post for this Byrant return, man. Everybody was like on my case. So I did. So this week it's arcade beat 'em ups, because before I'd
There
said
we
beat 'em
go.
ups, and then
That was it.
I this is a machine at an arcade, folks.
Yeah.
Arcades, kids, were a place you used to go. They had big stands and you fed it quarters. And they
My
had
son still loves the
games.
arcade. We go all the time. We were
Oh,
just
that's great.
there yesterday. That's we spent part of Sunday just chilling at the arcade. Or sorry, no, Saturday. Sunday was a birthday party. But yeah, Saturday went to the mall, went to the arcade, did some shopping. He absolutely loved it. He actually calls the mall the place where the arcade is.
Is
That
it
is
is it like a
insane.
true arcade of like just video games, or like the ticket games, or like what kind of arcade is it?
Yeah, it is. It's like straight up just like video games. And there
Sweet.
are some like
Oh.
ticket games with like skee ball and all that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, there's a little bit of everything. He weirdly loves the Jurassic Park game, like the shooting
The shooting of the
Oh.
Jurassic Park,
dinosaurs.
like shoot the dinosaurs kind of stuff. He loves that. He loves Crossy Road and yeah, like a few others. So he's but like other things too, like some of the ticket games. And like air hockey. He just loves every part of the arcade. Yeah, so it's they're not dead yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Dave and Buster's is kind of keeping alive. Barcades have kind of found a new place. There's a pinball bar near me, which is used to
Sweet.
be called Tilt, but they almost got sued. So they go Lit Pinball Bar. They just changed the letters around. So even better. But yeah, our arcades are great. I love them. They're a throwback. And that led us into the arcade beat 'em ups. And I picked three. The Simpsons arcade game. And most of these are by Konami, which is just kind of crazy because Konami doesn't even make video games really anymore.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first arcade game, not the NES, not on the SNES. This is truly at the arcade, the 4 joysticks, and then the X-Men arcade that you're probably familiar with if you watched the old Pride of the X-Men cartoon, because they basically modeled everything after that on
Sure.
those characters. So I guess before we get into our picks, we should go into what the community said. So I'll take Edwards first on Twitter. He said, "Buy X-Men, rent Simpsons, return TMNT. The NES version was better, longer, and had some banging tracks."
Edward, check yourself.
Oh no.
The NES version was better than what? Like a kick to the balls? Like what was the NES version of Ninja Turtles
a low
better
bar.
than? Come on. Dude, like you run into that seaweed stage, you're going to tell me that like I'll give it to you.
Wait. Was there
Banging tracks.
There wasn't like a beat 'em up on the NES, though, was
Wasn't there
there?
an NES? Wasn't there a TMNT arcade game on the NES though? That was like the arcade game.
I thought
that
it was just the
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, Super. It's like
pretty
Turtles in
sure
Time was the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah. I'm pretty
looking
sure
it up.
NES was just. I could be wrong. I will admit if you correct me here, I'm pretty sure NES Ninja Turtles was just the travesty with the impossible
The impossible swimming level.
Nope, there is. Ultra Games did it. It is truly the beat 'em up. It's a little bit more ugly, but it did happen. Yes, and 1990.
Oh my goodness,
you
Edward!
can buy it
I
for
apologize.
$1,295 sealed.
I'm gonna download that illegally. I mean, totally get that for real. I have that much money
save that money.
waiting around to spend on an NES game. Sure, why not? Edward, I'm sorry I came at you with a lot of heat there. I apologize. I'm gonna suck that one up and just say, I mean, you're still returning it, so I still think you're wrong, but like, I'm wrong.
Seconded
of why you're wrong.
This one's an odd one because I really didn't even know this existed either. I thought it was just like would have been on the SNES because of the art and everything, but there is a toned down version on the NES. Yeah, so
interesting.
No way, I'm watching this video.
Ninja Turtles 2. Okay,
blowing my mind. Holy crap! Wow.
The more you know.
Man.
Wow. The weird thing is, I probably have this game because I have like every game on my RG35XX. So I just haven't stumbled across it yet in like my quest to replay every game ever made, basically. So shoot, I'm gonna add this one to the list and I'm gonna try it out. for next time.
Was it in the Cowabunga collection that came out?
It might have been.
I don't know.
Because I have that, and maybe I didn't play it enough to know that, but that's interesting. I'll check that out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, hopefully we don't get stumped again. We're going to have to fact check before we go through this. So I'll do Schloss's. Schloss Ritter says, I'd like to rent all three just to beat them once each. Well, I've beaten Team NT, but never got to play the others. By X-Men, Welcome to Die. Yep, there's a lot of famous phrases in those games. Rent Simpsons, Cowabunga, Bart. And Return TMNT, inferior in part to the NES port, inferior in all ways to Turtles in Time. So good. So also Schloss knew about the NES port.
Yeah, he did.
So Mark?
I've been under a rock, man. I don't know what to tell you guys. You guys are all coming at me and just like smacking me around with this knowledge. I'm gonna tackle famous Seamus and just see if there's one more person teaching me a lesson. He's gonna buy The Simpsons. I've heard nothing but great things about the game. So I love that, buying one that you've never played but you've heard great things. That's a great use of the buy function there. Rent X-Men, always heard great things about this game. Plus, it has the infamous I am Magneto, Master of Magnet, and Welcome to Die voice lines. I would upgrade it to buy if it was the arcade cabinet with the option to play with 6 people. Ooh, okay, yeah. All right. Interesting. And then Rent TMNT. There are better TMNT beat 'em ups, including Turtles in Time and Shredder's Revenge. Hard to argue. I'm gonna jump in with one more, and then one of you guys can jump in. So I got Rawl from our Discord. Buy Simpsons, rent TMNT, and return X-Men. Sweet and simple, no explanations. Just bam. This is my choice.
One line.
Yep. Sticking with it. Moving on. So there we go. So Rawl, I appreciate the just going for it there. That's good.
Yeah, and then the Winter Gamer, Brendan Myers. Buy Simpsons because I played it with my older brother. Run X-Men because I never played it. And Return Turtles don't need the stress. So the good thing about playing it at home, I think, is just unlimited quarters, right? So, or unlimited plays. So, but at the arcade, yeah, those quarters go by
fast.
Ooh, man.
Yeah. All right. So, I realized, Jose, we never really asked you about your gaming background. So very quickly, what is your favorite arcade game of all time before we get into the rest of this?
Oh, you know what I'm going to say? And it's because I actually didn't even play it that much as a kid, but I wanted to so badly. And that was Mortal Kombat 2. And the only reason I couldn't is because I was probably there with my mom, and even though she fully supported my love of video games, it was in that era where parents were like, "Don't let your kids play this," and of course that just made me want to play it even more. And of course played 3 down the road and have been a fan ever since. So that's probably my favorite actual arcade game. But honestly, the beat 'em ups are a close second, if not in tied for first. Because that's what I wanted. I wanted to go and play with friends. I wasn't necessarily interested in going and play by myself. So that's probably what I would say there.
Excellent. Nice. Well, very good. Well, if you're ready to make your picks, what would you?
I am, but I'm second guessing here. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. What would you rent and what would you return?
Well, originally my automatic number one was TMNT because I love X-Men and I love The Simpsons and respect both properties, but TMNT was my childhood. It still is. Even as a grown man, I'm collecting the Ninja Turtles and Monsters collaboration action figures. It is just, I love the Ninja Turtles. So that was going to be my number one. But I think I was imagining more of the Turtles in Time arcade to beat 'em up. And so hearing from the people that wrote in, which I'm very grateful for the information, I think I'm actually going to put X-Men as my buy. Because X-Men, same thing. I remember playing with friends. I remember the 90s cartoon and being so into that, all of the lore and the characters, and just getting to play that was super fun. I never wanted to play as Colossus though. I respect him as an X-Man. Just I wanted to play as Wolverine or Storm or the other people. So, but I'm going to put that as my buy, and I'm moving TMNT to the rent. I would have switched those, but seeing that people are saying it was much better to do. There were better Turtles games. I'm going to put that at rent, and I'm going to return The Simpsons. And I love The Simpsons, and I liked the arcade beat 'em up. But again, it was also one of those things. My mom was a 32-year teacher, and so she was really against Bart Simpson because he hated school and he was kiss my butt and stuff like that. And so as a kid, she didn't let me watch it. Even though once I could, like, it was fine. Like, I laughed, but I didn't fall into traits of Bart or anything like that. So I just didn't get to play it as much. But I remember even wanting to play like the NES ports, and I remember playing like Bart's Nightmare on SNES and stuff like that. So like, I really enjoy the games, but I just never played this one enough because, again, I probably wasn't allowed to. But that is probably where I put my picks. But it's hard. I really want to put Turtles as one, but from everything I'm hearing from everyone, I trust the internet, right? The internet is undefeated, so that's what I'm going to go with.
Nice. Mark.
Copy and paste that answer, including the bit about my mom being a teacher. Weirdly, I think we just became best friends. But
We just become best friends.
Straight up, I was going to pick Ninja Turtles because not only am I a huge fan of Ninja Turtles, but also been playing the hell out of Shredder's Revenge with my 3-year-old. And freaking love it. And he loves it. And he has all my old Ninja Turtle toys, and I got him some new Ninja Turtle toys, and they're all playing together. It's great stuff. So I'm in like a bit of a Ninja Turtle renaissance. We've been watching some of the cartoons and stuff, like the more for kids kind of cartoons, and we'll eventually kind of, keep going. So that was going to be my easy number one. But reading all this, coming to that realization that not only is the NES version a thing, but it's better. Crazy. So I am going to copy your answer completely. Buy X-Men, rent TMNT, return Simpsons. Yeah, straight up, just copy paste. Thumbs up. Todd, how you feeling?
It's kind of sad that a lot of these games you can't even buy now. Like, I
Yeah.
know when like the 360 era, I think you could buy all three, no problem. Like they were just doing that like on Xbox Live Arcade. Like you could actually buy arcade games. I don't even know where you can get them. I mean, unless you still have your old Xbox Live account on your 360. I think they're still backwards compatible on Xbox major hardware. I think they haven't been delisted, maybe. Who knows? But I love this, and the fact that I was looking up the actual dates that these came out. TMNT Arcade came out in 1989. The Simpsons came out in 1991, and X-Men came out in 1992. It made me think of like how timely these games were with like pop culture.
Yeah.
Because I mean, TMNT was just coming out, just huge, and it was like just at the beginning of that onslaught of everything, and it was cool, and it was just right around the show and looked awesome. The Simpsons. Who would have thought the Simpsons would get a cool arcade beat 'em up at their time too, incorporating all these really cool Easter eggs from old, like the Matt Groening old cartoons, like from Alf too. I love that stuff. And then the X-Men cartoon, which came out in 92, so did the video game, and it was like perfect timing. It was like every boy's dream was just coming to life, and I just loved this. It was just such an awesome time, and they looked so much better than what you had at home on the NES too. So it was like at that point, it's like, wow, this is amazing and beautiful. So let's see. I am gonna buy The Simpsons because I think it's a great game. I think it's just so clever. All of the different movesets are different. The fact that what they do with it, the jokes, and it fits the tone of the show so well, and I love it. And it's timeless. It really is. And some would say probably the game looked better than the show did at the time, because I think there was still kind of that early animation where it wasn't that great. Yeah. Beating up Smithers and taking on Mr. Burns and Krusty Clown. Love that stuff. I would probably rent the X-Men because it's so close to my heart. That's my favorite X-Men or Marvel team. Love to pieces. The fact that as a kid, comic books didn't get much limelight, especially most video game things were horrible. If it came from a video game, they just weren't very good. So I love this. It was awesome. Once again, it was resurrecting the pride of the X-Men, which I loved, and these characters. Loved it. Really good intro too. If you think of like the pixel art and telling the story, awesome.
The soundtrack was awesome too.
Yeah, absolutely. The TMNT game I really enjoyed, but I do think Turtles in Time is the better game, and obviously there's been so many more Turtles beat 'em ups that it's like there's no shortage. Whereas there's only one Simpsons beat 'em up, and there's only one X-Men beat 'em up at this point, like that. So, that's what I'm gonna go with. But these are great. So we're gonna add a little bonus question to this one, because we are seeing new versions of arcade games coming out. So there is going to be a new Turtles arcade game called Wrath of the Mutants, which is actually based on a arcade game from 2017. I think that maybe it was at Dave and Buster's. It was at a
Oh,
local restaurant at my house or near my house, which was a lot of fun. It's a really cool arcade game, very fun, based on like the Nickelodeon cartoon.
Cool.
like a 3D animated ish one.
Yeah, not the one where it's kind of wackier and hand drawn. That's coming out, and then we're also getting a new Team NT game based on the most recent movie too.
Oh,
But this
sweet.
this this Wrath of the Mutants is going to be basically an adaptation of the arcade game. I don't know if it's going to do anything else. Oh, it does say it's going to get 6 additional boss battles, which is really cool, and it's only $30, so that's kind of cool.
That's
I like
awesome.
that, the fact that we're getting that. And then there's also a new GI Joe arcade beat 'em up coming out. And it's called The Wrath of Cobra. It looks awesome. It looks just like the 80s cartoon. So I'm glad we're getting
Cool.
these. So my question is, hello, we got a friend
Yeah,
visiting.
that's my daughter Penelope going to
Hello.
bed. Sorry.
Oh, hello. So my question to you guys is, what would be your dream adaptation of one of these beat 'em up arcade games?
That's a good one, man. I mean, Turtles was always the key one growing up. Like again, Turtles in Time. I know we've referenced that and stuff like that. But there was also a special place I think for these in history because when all these came out, you said 89, 91, 92. All the systems at that time only had 2 controllers, right? So like the novelty that you could go a place and play with 3 other people as opposed to just one other. That's like in today's world, kids are like, well, of course you could. I play with 99 other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yeah.
you forget that, but that was a huge piece of this when we were growing up. Um, I mean, for me, it'd be very different, but I would love to see almost like a Super Mario beat 'em up. Like I think that would be super fun. Like where you were Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, a couple other think like the Mario Kart heroes, and then you go against the baddies. Or the other thing is, my wife and I are super big into Halloween, so I would love almost like a like what is the classic '80s movie where they're fighting all the classic villains? I'm blanking on the name right now. I feel like an
Monster
idiot.
Squad?
Thank you. Monster Squad was what I was thinking, but like that kind of a beat 'em up where you're actually the monsters fighting against something else, like maybe aliens or something like that. So you could be the Wolfman, you could be Dracula. Like I think that would be super fun
Oh,
to
yeah,
do as
like
well.
Love
Universal
that.
Monsters. That would be
Yes.
awesome. Kind of reminds me of what was it? Splatterhouse?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of had a feel because it's side
Yeah.
scrolling, but definitely wasn't like where you play with multiple characters. I think Alien is probably the Aliens versus Predators, the
Ooh.
closest
Ooh.
we've gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Oh
very
yeah.
cool. I like that. Universal Monsters. I know they appeared in Fortnite.
Yep.
And I know they're trying to do the Dark Universe over at Universal. So yeah, they should do something like that. The closest we got was that Way Forward game, the Mummy, was it
Yeah.
remastered or
Yep.
Demastered.
yeah,
So
demastered?
good.
Yeah, yeah. Which is just
So
crazy. It's
good.
like not a good movie. The video game's better than the movie.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll take it though. It's a win.
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, Mark, what's your dream arcade beat 'em up?
Okay. I have a couple of different answers, and I'm trying to think of like something in Star Wars because we haven't gotten like a good Star Wars
Ooh.
like beat 'em up kind of game for a while. There was a couple of good ones on like I want to say GBA. There was like a good I think
Hmm.
Attack of the Clones maybe or Revenge of the Sith. I can't remember which one, but it was all right. I just played it not that long ago. So like something like that because like just going through enemies with like lightsabers and force abilities is just fun. But since it's been done, I want to try to think of something that hasn't really been done. And we're coming up on I think the 30th anniversary of Street Sharks. So it's kind of a Ninja Turtles knockoff, like
Yep.
easy cop
Yeah.
out kind of answer, but like also I think that'd be badass for like a 30th anniversary. Like, here we go, Street Sharks are back in the arcade because they're re-releasing the toy line too.
Yeah, I
And
saw
I still
that.
have
That's
a couple of
awesome.
like my original Street Sharks at my parents' place. So I'm kind of pumped for that resurgence. Um, I'm gonna also give a modern answer, new take on some like a brand new property that I think could make an entertaining beat 'em up and like get some new people into the arcade. And that is Has Been Hotel. I think you could have some really cool
Oh,
battles in hell against like cannibals, other people in hell, angels, big boss fights, um, the bosses and stuff there. Like a lot of them written into the show, a lot of them kind of hinted at in the show that you could make up some cool side stories and other things for for specifically just for the arcade cabinet, so it wouldn't have to be like a rehash of what happened in the show. I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was great, and I think
Is that the one on
I'd
Amazon
beat 'em
Prime?
up there. Yeah,
The
It's a
cartoon one?
musical, right?
yeah,
I haven't seen
cartoon
it, but I do
musical.
want to see it. I'll have to check it out. That's
It's
awesome.
Very adult,
entertaining.
not for the kids.
I know that
No,
for sure.
do not let the kids watch it. Holy crap! It was like some of the episodes were really, really hard to watch, and like they throw songs in there to kind of like break up things or whatever, or like, but it's still like jarringly difficult to get through at some points, but like relevant and worthwhile. But I think we could make a very interesting arcade cabinet. So I'm gonna super throwback and also like super new, relevant in the zeitgeist TikTok kind of crowd of like, wait a second, there's a has-been arcade game, let's go. You get like, people showing up in full cosplay to the arcade. I think that'd be entertaining.
That's awesome. Todd, how about you, man?
I'm gonna cheat because I have so many in mind. So the first one's a WWF style.
Oh, okay.
Where you get 4 wrestlers and they're going up and they're going on a weird mission. They're just like going to beat up, like, regardless of who it is, they're just going to go through, do all of the wrestling moves, but go through the level. Like they're going to take on, like, I don't know, almost like if you think of like, what is it? World Team, America. What is
Team
it called?
America World Police, right?
Yeah, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to be like a secret. The WWF wrestlers are actually like a secret force, kind of like G.I. Joe, but
nice.
they use wrestling moves to take out like terrorists and in the Korean army and all the despot. That's one. The
Love
other
it.
one is I want like a Adult Swim. So think of like
Ooh.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You could have Rick and Morty, Frisky Dingo, Sequest. I mean, there's a bunch of other ones you could throw in there that I think would be ridiculous.
That'd be fun.
And then I thought, well, just go then to the Fox Animation domination with like Bob's Burgers, American Dad, Family Guy, whoever else, throw them in. And
I'd love to play as Linda, throwing hamburgers and songs at people. Fantastic, man.
Oh yeah, it would be great. Gene would have his keyboard and making fart noises. That's awesome. So good. Tina's Pony, what is it? Erotic zombie tales or whatever. Erotic friends or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, there's so many good things you could do. So I want everything to
Bob's
have
Burgers game.
Oh,
like that's a big one right there. That's great.
Yeah, that's just on its own. Like forget the rest. Like that's.
Oh yeah. I mean, might as well. There. I mean, they make as much sense in a beat 'em up as the Simpsons do. So
yeah.
Throw them out there. Yeah, cool. Okay, well, folks, if you have ideas for your dream arcade beat 'em ups, let us know because we'd love to hear it. Because there's no such thing as bad idea. If there was, I would have mentioned mine. So, so there we go. So let's get into what we've been gaming. So Jose.
So I was alluding to this to Todd before we started. So I've been a console gamer my whole life. First one was like SNES, even though like my buddy had an NES and I wanted one and didn't, and then Christmas NES. So I've been console my whole life. I've definitely like had the original Xbox, had the original PlayStation. Like I've been both my whole life. More recently, I've been more into Xbox, which is fine. I have nothing against PlayStation. It's just that was the box I chose. But as of like the last month, I built my first ever PC. Like I've never ever built a PC, and so my co-host, good friend of mine, Jason, we call him Bacon because that's his gamer tag, is a huge into PC. He has been for like 6, 7, 8 years, and he's been systematically trying to get us to do it. Me and our other co-host Dan, and finally I bit the bullet. And part of what really drove it was the whole change that we're seeing, where like a lot of stuff is going day and date to PC, and I was really bummed out because I loved Xbox that I missed out on like God of War and Returnal and Final Fantasy and stuff. And so when I started hearing some of these coming to PC, I was like, okay, I maybe that's just the way I need to go so I can play all these games. And so I finally did that, and I built my whole rig. I'm really happy it's sitting here right next to me. So more recently, I finally played, or am been playing Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm almost done with it. I'm chapter 14. I played the original Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation when it came out, the 3-disc thing. Like it was seminal to my childhood. Like I spent hundreds of hours, which today's world is pretty common with some games, but like as a kid in the 90s, like that just didn't happen. You didn't do that with games.
Games didn't last that long.
No, they just didn't. They were
No.
2-3 hour bangers max, and so to do that was insane. So I've been really re-enjoying the story. To be granted, I mean I hadn't played it since it came out in what, like 96, and so um, I went and watched a YouTube video to like re-remember the story, and man, I forgot how convoluted that story was. Like I don't know how young me even understood it. Um, Arguably, I probably didn't, to be fair, but I've really enjoyed seeing kind of how they changed some stuff. It makes me really excited to play Rebirth. That's obviously not available on PC yet, but soon, right? Other than that, I've been playing Balatro, which I know you guys mentioned last week with Clint when he was on the show. It was recommended to me again by a friend, and I've been playing on my Ally, and it is addicting. Like, I'm not a poker dude. I'm not really a card game guy even, and so I was kind of like, oh, it's $15. I'll support a developer, and man, it is a cool game. Like, it's also equally impressed that it was developed by one guy, and so I'm really happy that one guy's doing really well. And then other than that, just games I play with my buddies. So a lot of Warzone, and I work in education. I'm an assistant principal, and so I'm on spring break this week. So I'm looking forward to playing lots of games this week. And so for the first time ever, I played Fortnite, and I've just being
Wow.
in education and like all of my students love Fortnite. I never jumped into it, and some of it I think was a little like, if my kids are playing it, I want to play something different. But at the same time, I always felt this sense of guilt of like, I should know what they're doing. Like, that's a good way to
Mm.
connect with kids, and I'm sure that, especially because I've just like all games, I bet I will like it. But it was also like, again, I was playing Warzone and some other games where I was just like, I don't need all these online service games. But last night, my buddy was reaching out to me about his kids, because that's one of my favorite parts about this community, and even like Luke's Discord and our show and stuff is like, we're all we like to joke that we're middle aged, but we're also, a lot of us are parents, a lot of us like have careers and stuff like that, and so I feel like at my job, a lot of other adults don't play games, so I don't get to talk about this there. And
Mhm.
even in like the parenting world, like we all want our kids to play games because we love games, but there are like weird questions that come up that, like, the question last night was, what age should I let my kids start playing Fortnite? And there are lots of schools of thought. I'm certainly not an expert, so please don't like take my advice for that to mean anything. But what we were talking about was like, he was like, the problem with my son is that I don't love the violence aspect. Like, I don't like teaching my kid like shooting a gun at someone is a good thing. But the reality is, like, his friends all play it, and like one of his neighbor friends that he spends a lot of his time at his house does play it and has like no regulations at his house. And so like we were talking like, well, here's the problem is like, if you say no at your house, then he's going to basically just try to go to his friends all the time and hide it from you. And like, is it better to like maybe sit down and play with him and like have the discussion about like violence in a game is different than violence in real life? And like, it's a whole complicated thing. But nonetheless, full circle here, we decided to jump in last night together. Like, I was like, I've never played it. He had never played it. We play Warzone a lot together. So I was like, all right, well, let's check it out, man. And I kid you not, first game, I won Victory Royale, and the second game, he won Victory Royale. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to
Amazing.
retire. I'm going out on top, undefeated. But all jokes aside, it was fun, man. So I definitely will stick it out a little bit longer. I am bummed that I missed the Ninja Turtle packs. I would have loved to buy Donatello, but I'll find something soon. I'm sure that I'll spend my money on. So that's what I've been playing this week, man. And again, like, looking forward to playing a lot more this week. So the Steam sale is right now is insane. So don't
Oh
go
my
there if you don't want to
goodness.
spend money.
No, it made me laugh because when you said, you got the Royale, I'm like thinking, all of that Warzone that you've been playing has prepared you for all the
It
people
really
that
did.
don't play
Yeah.
Warzone in Fortnite, and it's like, Daddy's coming home, and yeah,
I felt like
yeah.
I was like just destroy these like 12-year-olds who were crying. I was like, I feel a little bad that it's just happening like this.
I've
So
I've come through the horror story of Warzone. Now I'm into wreaking havoc on all of
exactly.
you
Usually I'm at
and
the bottom
giving
of
you
the list. Like,
PTSD. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was
Mm.
going to mention on Balatro, I'm playing it too, and the funny part is I didn't realize this, but Balatro or Balatro, it actually stands for Joker. I didn't know that,
oh,
and I
I
think
didn't know that
Germany
either.
exactly. So
Okay.
it kind of makes total sense because it's a game of Jokers. So
Yeah.
I played it on the PS Plus, had a trial for an hour because
Oh,
there was a demo on Steam, but it went away, and it's $15. I'm like, and I've heard a mobile version is coming out, which would be
yeah, I've heard
perfect
that
for
too.
that game for me, because it's just a card game, but it's really a roguelite poker
Yep.
game where you can bank jokers that you buy or other type of modifiers, and they carry with you, and then you can sell those jokers, get different jokers,
Yep.
and really it's you get so many cards, you get so many drops per round, and then you have to be very careful what you buy, but basically you start again once you don't hit your the what is
The
it,
anti.
the ante and
Yep.
it was the big blind or
Big
the
blind,
blind.
small blind. Yeah.
Yep, and you can skip. You don't have to go through the beginning. You can skip and get to the higher number, but it always helps to get as many jokers as you can to go through. But that's an interesting game, and it's
It
already sold a
is.
million copies, which to me that's impressive. It's on Switch, it's on all the other consoles, but apparently it's being blocked in some regions because it uses like gambling terminology. But I'm like,
Mm.
aren't there other poker games already?
Like poker, like just
Yeah, I
poker.
mean, like there was a Poker Clash game on Xbox 360, I remember, and yeah, it's weird, but it's a very fun game, and
Yep.
it kind of reminds me of Inscripted in regards to some of the creepiness
Oh.
of the Joker, and they kind of talk to you. But it's a cool game. It's a cool game.
It's
Yeah.
cool. Have you finished a full run? Have you completed a run yet?
Not yet. My
Okay.
trial ran out as I was
Oh,
playing it, and
gotcha, gotcha.
I kept on hitting the discard button when I was putting cards up to play them, and I hit discard so I screwed myself many
Yeah,
times, but
I've
it's
done that
fun.
before too.
Yeah, I think it's if you're not like you want to give something a try, there's a trial out there, but like I said, I think this is perfect for mobile. So when
It
it's
is.
there, even on Switch, I don't have my Switch with me all the time. So for me, on my toilet time, even though people
Yep.
said you'll be playing for an hour, I'm like, if I have to sit on my toilet for an hour and play this game, that's okay.
Peace. It's
Where else
peacefulness.
am I gonna go? As Mark knows, I don't want to drop my Switch in the toilet, so
No.
I'm
Yeah,
perfectly fine with
you
my
don't
my
you
my
don't want
phone.
to do that. Yeah,
No, no.
of course.
So Mark, you've got a new person that's talking about Fortnite. Do you want to talk about Fortnite?
I do. Yeah, I totally do. And you brought up you perfectly like brought up when to introduce kids to Fortnite because like I said, I have a 3-year-old. He'll be 4 in May, and he has been getting into video games and slowly kind of like introducing him to kiddie games. So like I got Yoshi for him, like the whatever one on Switch, Crafted World or whatever it is. He's been playing through some of the Kirby games on both the Switch and the 3DS, of course, with 3D off, but like Kirby's Epic Yarn, that kind of stuff. We're Planet Robobot, and he's loving those simple games. We played through the Mario games together, but he saw Fortnite. He saw me just kind of log in to check something in the store, and was just kind of like, "What's this?" And I try not to play violent games around him,
Yeah.
so I don't game much while he's around. But he was very intrigued by the colorful characters in Fortnite. Again, he saw the Ninja Turtles because I instantly bought all 4 as soon as they hit the shop, and he was like, "Hey, is that a Ninja Turtle?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, but it's hard to
uh,
explain.
yeah, and then he loves the dances. So like, there's a Lady Gaga dance in the shop right now, and the second like I was scrolling through the shop and I landed on that, and he just like perked up instantly and just started like copying the dance moves and like going crazy. So every time I put that song on now, he's just doing like the straight up dance from Fortnite, and it's amazing. So he asked me Saturday or Sunday yesterday. Anyway, over the weekend, he asked, "Can we play Fortnite?" At first, I was just like, "No, let's play something else. Let's play." And he kind of kept asking, and kept at it. And I talked to my wife. I was like, "Okay, there's no blood. He knows like pew pews. He picked up like a glass, like a plastic
Yep.
cup the other day, and was just running around going, 'This is my pew pew. Let's go get the bad guys.'" And I was just like,
Yep.
"Oh, what? Okay." Um, so I don't know, like, daycare or something, like someone's introducing him to like the pew pews or whatever. My brother and I have Nerf guns at my parents' place. When he's over there,
Sure.
he instantly knows where they are. He just goes for them. It was in storage, whatever. So I was like, there's no like blood, whatever, violence, of course, from like shooting and whatever. But like, he also he wasn't interested in that part at all.
He
So
just wanted
when
to dance. That's all I wanted to do.
I finally decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit next to him. I'm going to see if I can take the controller to keep him alive, but let him do what he wants. He wanted to dance and he wanted to wreck buildings as Leonardo and hit the buildings with his swords.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we landed. He destroyed a couple of buildings. Anytime someone would come, I'd say, "Hey, buddy, there's someone sneaking up on you." He'd throw me the controller. I'd take the person out. My first victory royale of this season was the
Was when he
match
was
that
with you.
Finn and I played. I cannot believe that I kept him alive for that long, but also we like eked out the win at the very end. It was just insane. And we both went nuts and did the Lady Gaga dance at the end. So it was a good time.
You earned it, buddy. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Todd,
you're muted, Todd.
What about the Lego Fortnite, Mark? Would that be?
He was not interested. I tried that one because I was like,
okay.
because we were going through and I was showing him the Lego version. He's like, I like the Lego Ninja Turtles. I like that. Showing him the Lego version. He was like, not interested whatsoever. He hit a sheep with Leonardo's sword. Again, he wanted to be the Ninja Turtles. He chased after a sheep and he was just like, is there anything else here?
Yeah, that it?
Like, not really. Okay. You can just, do you want to fly around? We can fly. We can build buildings. He's like, no, I don't want to do this. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, he's zero interest. He wanted the real versions of whatever else, and he just liked wrecking real buildings, not Lego buildings. I don't know. He's he knows what he wants, but he hasn't asked me to play Fortnite since. Didn't mention it today. I don't know if he got it out of his system, if it wasn't his cup of tea, and he was just humoring me playing it yesterday through to the end. But I'm happy that victory umbrella for this season is going to be like, that's the one I got with a 3-year-old wrecking buildings the whole time, and me just grabbing the controller at the end, being like, "Oh God, there's 2 people coming at us." It was a miraculous victory for sure.
Yeah, they grow up so quick. I would say don't rush it. They'll get into it. My son is 18 now, so there's always time. Let them play the fun games that are good at their age. They'll find their way. Merc, maybe get Just Dance. Do you have Just Dance already or no?
I don't. No. Actually, we might have an older version of Just Dance. I'm gonna have to see. I'm gonna.
I think he'd love it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a distinct possibility that he's going to like Just Dance. I'm going to have to. That's a good call. I'm going to have to report
Dance
back.
Party at the Carabins this weekend.
That's it, man. He loves it. He loves dancing, loves singing. So if I can, Just Dance might be a good one. That's I'm going to have to look into that. I think my wife has one of them, so I'm going to check her Switch, and we'll see. We'll get back if we have some dance parties. The only other game I've been playing, like I said, I did kind of play some Yoshi, and I've been playing some stuff with him. But the only game I played for me is Ubisoft. Our friends at Ubisoft Canada sent me over a copy of Skull and Bones. I love pirates. I have like my pirate Jedi character that I do over on like Instagram and TikTok and whatever else. It's like pirates are my jam. I love Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Which this game kind of has its roots in, and I was super happy to play it. Super happy to finally kind of like dig in and actually play a bit. And it's been tough playing this game. It's been a very difficult one to gauge my interest in. Even watching trailers and stuff, I think I've been trying to decide if I'm judging this game too harshly or if it deserves that kind of thing. So I'll explain why. So like I said, the game's kind of based off of the naval battling from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So Assassin's Creed games, you go around and then there's extra bits in this game and in a couple of others where you can go and control a ship and do stuff. But that's kind of like an extra bonus in those games. It's not, the main Assassin's Creed storyline of like, stabby, jumpy. So basing a full game around that is cool, but also, you have to wrap your head around that you're not getting an Assassin's Creed game with it. Like that's the game, right? So you have to go in, and the way I've been trying to think about it is you can have like a GTA game that has a great story and some cool action, and like driving is part of that, and racing could be like part of that game, but you can also enjoy a racing game. So I've been trying to enjoy this as I would enjoy a racing game and not compare it to the full game with a full open world kind of thing. And I've been enjoying it a lot more because of that. Just enjoying it for what it is. Enjoying it for this is a racing game. This is a specific type of game that's not an open world, all encompassing action adventure where you can also do this thing. They chose to focus down on it. And um and sometimes that's great. Sometimes I can really enjoy the game for that, and it's really cool. I love ship battle. I love Sea of Thieves. I loved that kind of thing in Black Flag, and this adds to that. It keeps going with that. There's reminds me sometimes of like different MMOs like World of Warcraft or something like that, where you can see other people in the world and you're all going for the same quest and you kind of go out. I helped one guy take out a shark early on that was like attacking his ship, and I was just like, not on my watch, Poocha! And I kept going. It was like, so it's like that kind of stuff that happens in a live world kind of game, shared world, that you definitely didn't get in Assassin's Creed or anything like that. So I'm really trying to enjoy this game for what it is and not miss what it isn't, if that makes sense. But it's been tough, man. It's been a weird one. But every time that I feel myself being like, damn it, where's Edward? I want to go stab that guy in the face, but I have to shoot him with a cannonball. I just have to remind myself that it's a racing game. It is not a GTA game. And when I do that, I enjoy the hell out of it. But I understand why people can't separate it, because it looks so much like those naval battles from Black Flag. If they chose a different art style for this, it could have worked. But again, then you'd be if you went too cartoony, you're starting to compare it to Sea of Thieves. It's really, really tough. I do not envy the teams that worked on this, because they kind of like, I think they were fighting a losing battle for some of these criticisms, when they just wanted to make a cool racing game. And just let them make a cool damn racing game, like that's it. So I got to keep reminding myself, and I got to keep looking at it like that, and just enjoying it for what it is. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, if you can separate the racing game from the GTA, check this out. It's already going on sale. The reviews have been, I'll say, harsh. And I think, again, I'm still fairly early on in this game, so it may get super repetitive. I don't know. I've read some of the reviews. I try not to read reviews of games that I'm also going to be playing and reviewing and that kind of stuff, but I've perused like through the scores and kind of general gist of what people are saying. But so far, like, it's beautiful. Like the sailing, like, but again, up close, it kind of doesn't look great. Like people details and some of the things like onshore when you're going to get a mission. But I've been enjoying it for what I sat in my living room the other night, and I had a glass of rum, and I put my pirate hat on, and I sailed around the seven seas,
and
hitting sharks and other shit.
A method actor. I love it.
Did, yeah, absolutely. I was like, the full on Wellerman, humming the whole time. I actually did. I'm not even gonna lie about that. I was like, my wife came here. She was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Just let me."
Don't worry about it.
That's it. Yeah.
Have you seen Dodgeball? That was Mark playing the pirate in Dodgeball.
Yeah,
yes. That's it. 100%. So I've been enjoying this for what it is. I'm gonna keep playing with it. I'm gonna keep trying. Keep enjoying it. So that's got to say something, because if I'm returning to a game after playing it, that's always a good sign for me. So I'm gonna stick with it for a bit.
It's kind of crazy. I was looking at the history of this game. They started working on it in 2013. It was supposed to come out in 2018. And then I believe it was Ubisoft Shanghai. They believe there was a deal where they had agreement to get it funded by the country. So there was agreement to keep going with this game. And it's a shame that, it carries so much baggage that people have already prejudged it. It was in betas all the time. But I would say this, Ubisoft Plus is now on Xbox. It's also on PC for like $17. You can play all of their games for a month. Try it.
Yep.
See what you think. Try. Also play Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, folks. Please, that game needs to do well. So play that, play this, and get your money's worth for a month, and then drop it or play again for another month. And for $35, you can play 2 of the newest games and have a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, myself, I already talked to Balatro, so check that out. I think it's a cool game, especially if you're into card games.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody likes cards. Everybody likes poker. It's fun. A game that I had heard about that seemed really interesting. I heard about it actually on Game Scoop, and it was a game called Eternal Castle. This is on a Steam sale, so I actually bought it there. It was like $8, and Eternal Castle is such a weird game because I don't know if this is a lie or not, but they said it's actually a remaster of an old game. I couldn't find this original old game anywhere. So I think it's a lie that they just made up to make it seem like this is a sequel or something, or a remaster, because it's essentially like a demastered Prince of Persia. So it has like that rotoscoping like animation, which is
Okay.
really cool. I like it, but it looks more like it's old Commodore 64 game or a television game. Very limited use of color, so it's a lot of like neon blacks and things like that. A lot of lack of color, and it kind of reminds me of even like Out of This World, if you remember that game on like the
Oh yeah.
SNES.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like that, but it's like very limited details, but the animation feels modern because it does feel like fluid. They're doing like motions that you didn't think they like. When he falls, he kind of shakes himself off or does this. But it's the movement is a little bit erratic at times. It's not like precision.
Mm.
And it basically starts off that you're on this spaceship and you get shot down and you fall on a planet, and it's neat because it's got limited art, but it does so much with the art. It's very endearing. The sound is amazing, the vibration is excellent, and the use of light and like lighting and color in a very minimalistic aspect is cool. It's also on the Switch, I believe. I think that's only on PC and Switch, which is perfect because it doesn't demand a lot, but it's neat. And it's very much a elements of survival because you don't get a lot of ammo. You do get like weapons, and you kind of have to feel like. Also, I felt like what's the game by the guys who did Limbo? Kind of reminds me
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah,
Limbo,
yeah.
where you
Mm.
die badly. And it's horrible. And it's neat though. I really liked it, and I want to play more. But I got into like a puzzle where you've got like these. You've got to get 4 characters in a specific order to do something. And while I'm trying to do that, this behemoth of a creature that I can't kill keeps coming for me. So I have to basically run and roll past him, get him really
Mm.
far away, then run all the way back, try a couple codes. Oh crap! I can hear him coming. I'm like, oh my god! It's like what is it, Mr. X from
Yeah, Resident
Resident
Evil
Evil.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. So it's like, oh no. So I run again, come back, and I keep dying, but it's got like checkpoints, which are very nice, which is cool, but limited ammo. I don't know where it's going, and you can basically choose on the map to go back to your ship. But you have to repair your ship. That's the whole thing. It's kind of like Metroid, where you have to find pieces of your ship and repair it. So you have to go to different areas. So I like it. It does so much with so little that it's really impressive. I really appreciate what they've been able to do. It's a very fun game, and $8. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give it a try finally. It's been on my wish list forever. That's what's great about Steam sales. Make a long wish list,
Yep, they'll
see
tell
what's
you
on
when it's cheap.
sale, get it, and go. So, Eternal
Love
Castle,
that.
check it out.
I
Um,
it reminds me of the was it Dark Void Zero DSi
kind
rare
of, yeah, like a
game.
demastered, yeah,
But
yeah,
it was like that. The whole thing about that game was it was an April Fool's joke that they actually ended up making, and then they were like, "We found this in the Capcom vault," and
that's right.
it was all bullshit. They just built that game for fun and then released it on the DSi. But I love that kind of stuff where they're like, "Yeah, do you believe it? Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? It's fun. Just play this game." That's great. I think that game's also
Yeah.
on PS5. I was just looking it
Oh,
up, and it
okay.
says PS5, Nintendo Switch, PC, Mac. Um, yeah, so try it out everywhere except Xbox,
That's so
apparently.
weird.
Because
I didn't even know it was on
why?
PlayStation, but I'm like, I'll just get it on Steam or I'll get that from there. So it's really cool, and it's a little disturbing too because there's like some elements where it'll get a question mark and you read what it says and it's kind of creepy. I'm like, I don't know where this is going, and it's sci-fi, but it's in like a castle, and it's very interesting. I really respect what they've done. So definitely check out at least a YouTube video of it because I think that will give it all away to say if this is you or not, because it's not going to be for a lot of people. But I like that aesthetic, especially being a kid of the Commodore 64. 128 was my first real video game system I ever owned because it was before I got my NES. So it was my entryway into video games. So check it out. Then I played the Princess Peach demo. It's like a complete opposite. Like, not dark, not minimalistic at all. Very cute and cuddly. And
Mhm.
this game, there's a demo out right now. So if you want to check it out before you buy, which I appreciate Nintendo does. They did it with Kirby. They've done with a few other games too. They did it with uh, Pikmin 4, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And this game is definitely, it's kind of taking that school of Kirby where it's super easy. I just don't know if it will have layers of difficulty. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it will. It doesn't feel like it's meant that way. It feels like it's definitely more like mini games tied into like an overall aesthetic of, if you don't know anything about this game, Princess Peach, she goes to the theater. When she goes to the theater with her little friends, essentially a bad guy comes through, kind of like in Kirby, where he eventually locks down the theater, and essentially Peach has to save the day with her little friends. And every um, theater part has her giving her powers. So essentially, she can become, like, the first level you play as like a swordsman. So you become Sword Peach, and you go and you can kill all of these characters. And the whole point is you've got to get enough elements of the board to get to the next level. You can get coins and things like that. Um, None of it was a challenge whatsoever. So I think Finn would love this. Kids are great. It's
Mm.
obviously one of the few times that we do have a female protagonist in the Mario universe. I don't know though if they really decided to like add difficulty or not. There's going to be one where she's a baker. That feels more like a mini game as well. I
Mhm.
didn't get the feeling like you'll get like these powers where you can use them like Kirby, where if you just get the thing, you can use it
Yeah.
any time. That's what I like
Yeah.
about Kirby, because
It
like,
seems to
oh,
be
do I want to be the
specific to the
swordsman?
stage. Yeah.
Yeah, this seems to be set where it's specific to that. It reminds me a little bit of Klonoa, if you remember Klonoa, basically,
Mm.
where it's kind of
Yeah.
like that kind of pseudo 3D, where it kind of goes around. So there's a little bit of that. And Logan, so Logan made a joke that this is like Balin Wonderworld, but done with a little bit more quality, because it was like you get one power at a time. There's a lot
Mm.
of dancing. Yeah, and even the main bad guy looks like the main bad guy. So it's not for me, but it is cute. It's got a lot of charm. um and that's fine. And I don't know, this might be one kid's first Nintendo game they love.
I'm very curious who this game is for, because it's not. You mentioned Finn might enjoy it. We played the demo. He didn't.
Oh.
Um, he got frustrated with it because he's used to being able to play Kirby games and play those games on his own. Play Mario, play Kirby, like whatever he's been playing. He's been mostly playing on his own, aside from Fortnite. For this game, he could play through most of the stage. But then at the end, at the bosses, there are these weird little timed quick time events that you have to time
Yeah.
a dodge or a jump, and it triggers a slow motion thing, and you go through with the sword slash or whatever it is. There are no on screen prompts to tell you
That's
at
weird.
all when to do this. You
Yeah.
really have to do it. There's no, like, usually in these, whether it's a Mario Party or one of those games, there's a giant press the A button and my
Yeah.
kid
Prompt.
knows where
Yeah.
the A button is. For this, there's nothing. So whether they add that to the final game, I really hope they do, because this game is almost really accessible as someone's first kind of like
Yeah.
mini game mashup action, different kind of game, whatever. Finn got so frustrated not knowing that he just had to press the jump button when the boss was triggering this event. So to him, it was like his Dark Souls. He wasn't sure what the hell to do at any point. The thing's coming at him. He doesn't know how to dodge fast enough. He's like pressing the slash button because he knows that that's the sword button, but he's not realizing that like the boss takes a little bit more nuance and very specifically timed nuance. And it's just, for me it was like I'm guessing this is a slightly older kid that doesn't mind most of the levels being super dumbed down and
Yeah.
then slightly more ramping up the challenge for the boss fights. I found it a really weird balance. I and I played through it myself to try to help him and like see if I could explain it to him. And it was just like, there needs to be an accessibility option or like a like kid friendly, like throw the button prompt. Cause even my wife was like, what the hell do I do here? I'm trying to help him. I'm like, oh, you just dodge it like this. She's like, what, how, what, where was that in the cake mini game? She completely missed because it's kind of tucked up in the corner, the blueprint of how you're supposed to decorate the cakes. She was focused on the cake and trying to figure out, like, she just thought have fun and make the best icing design and whatever. But there's like a very specific pattern you have to do, but it's kind of like just tucked up in a corner where you wouldn't. I don't know, she didn't see it. Finn didn't see it. I was just like, oh, it's up there, and follow along that pattern. But like, it wasn't. I don't know. They're making some of these things just, to me and my family, not clear enough to make it accessible to
Hmm.
kids who would be interested in the aesthetic and most of the difficulty level of the rest of the game.
Is it as difficult or less difficult or more difficult than like Luigi's Mansion? Have either of you played that?
Less.
Less,
It's
definitely less than
less.
that. Okay.
It's
I'm gonna
far
say
less.
more.
Oh,
Because
really?
Luigi's Mansion, again, something that Finn has been able to pick up and play,
Hmm.
has the button prompts. When you grab a ghost, it says mash A. So the kid sees mash A up on the screen
Sure.
and starts mashing A
Okay.
and can eventually grab a ghost and suck it up. And he's like, hey, I caught a ghost. And he's very happy with himself. This does not have the mash A button. Because of that, for someone who can't read and can't understand those kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
prompts, more
Yeah.
difficult. For most people, you say like an 8-year-old or something like that, probably less difficult. I
Yeah.
think Todd's right, after a certain age gap.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, I
makes
would
sense.
say
Cool.
the mechanics of Luigi Mansion, because you have to manage like where you're pointing and doing
Pulling and
that. But I
stuff.
think
Yeah.
from a point of like intuition, if you're like new to video games, like this is so video games, and then if you're not familiar with it, like, oh, it's a quick time event, and it's like, what the hell's a quick time event? Well, I've been
Yeah.
playing it since Resident Evil 4, and I know I got to do something when a thing's happen. Yeah, so that's an
Mhm.
interesting interpretation. It's like that's weird that they wouldn't overkill you on push A, like biggest button in the world, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like you're so, like I'm so used to like Mario Party games where it's like you get to practice beforehand. Are you done
yeah.
practicing? Cool. Good job. You're gonna win this. We
Or
believe
they
in you. But nothing in this.
or they forgive you, or like you missed it. Okay, let's try it
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
and
They don't
give it
Yeah.
immediately
another
attack
try.
you and
Yeah,
kill you right
yeah,
away.
Yeah, we're gonna
exactly.
slow
Like
it down more next time or something. Like it's just,
exactly, or you
yeah,
miss
not
it so
here.
many times it does it for you, or it does something simple, so it's like you don't feel like you're
Yeah.
beaten. I was looking, and then basically Nintendo's been very sketchy about who's actually developed this game, but apparently it's Good Feel Games, and they've got a good pedigree. They did Wario Land Shake It, they did Kirby's Epic Yarn, they did Mario and Luigi Dream Team, Yoshi's
Ooh,
Woolly World, Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Extra
yes.
Epic Yarn, and Yoshi's Crafty World. So they've got a
Oh
good,
wow.
Wow.
they do make games that are good for all ages.
Mhm.
So it just seemed this
Hmm.
game doesn't have as much depth. It's a little bit more like we're giving you a lot of variety, like a Mario Party, but the depth doesn't feel there like it would like in a Kirby game where you're like, oh, this is going to be difficult. Because Kirby games get really difficult if you want them to be. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
that
this
might
is
be
one of
another thing is
Nintendo's.
we played Kirby together. So for any of those
Yeah,
things, I could jump in as Waddle Dee and hit things with a spear.
yeah.
I can't do that in this game. So
No,
he's on his own trying to figure out these quick time events. Where in
yeah.
Kirby, he could just kind of float away while I kick the crap out of some boss. So that may be adding to my like displeasure with this demo as well. As it just like frustrated my child.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but great pedigree from that studio, man. I hope he is interested. I do have to say he's interested in the different suits. He wants to explore the theater and do that kind of stuff. So I might end up picking up this game and just working through the frustration.
I did see vouchers are still available to buy, which I
Yeah,
didn't realize they
yeah,
were.
there.
So very cool. If you want to do that, it's a great way to get games on in deals. And like in the U.S. and I market, and I don't know if Costco in Canada does this, but sometimes they will have the Nintendo gift cards on sale. So what
Walmart
I'll
just did.
do,
Yeah, it was like $50
yeah,
off $100. Yeah, it's pretty decent.
exactly. So that's what I did when I got like I bought $80 worth of gift cards. I bought the voucher, well, $100 for $80. bought the $100 bought the vouchers, and I ended up getting 2 games for like $40 each, which is a
That's awesome.
steal.
Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Pro tip. Well, very, very cool. Just to let you know that Nintendo does have 2 other games coming out this year. They do have that we know of at this point. We have Luigi's Mansion HD coming out in June. Once again, spooky June, and we also have Mario, Paper Mario, Thousand
Thousand
Door,
Year
right?
Door.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thousand Year Door coming out in May. So that's their calendar right now. We're finding out a lot of companies are not telling us what they've got coming out past June, which is funny, but there we go. It's time for the bonus round, and we're going to be looking at this generation. We're 4 years in. We launched in 2020. Kind of amazing that amid the COVID, world where everything was kind of unknown, we didn't. I mean, I think the vaccine was finally, in the viewpoint of us that was going to come out, and we were still going to get new systems. Kind of amazes me that that even happened. The Xbox Series S and X and the PlayStation 5 digital and disc-based systems launched in November. I became console claws because I was able to nab 4 PlayStation 5s for friends, which was great. I got one and I got them for other friends, so I was happy to do that because it was very difficult. Didn't didn't do anything. I did not get an Xbox Series X console at launch. What about you, gentlemen? Did you get systems at launch?
Go ahead, Mark.
Series X.
Same Series X. I remember the day, like at the time I was, was I still teaching? I don't know if I was teaching or not still. But I was in a classroom with kids, and like my buddy texted me like, they're on Amazon right now. So I was like on my phone ordering that and having a conversation with the child. I remember very distinctly, but yeah, I got a Series X.
Be quiet!
during
I'm
that
trying to get a
first year. Yeah.
console,
Everyone
kid.
be quiet
We're
or get on. Why don't you get on? See if you get on
pay no
Amazon, get
attention.
one for me.
Screw those kids.
I love that. I love that. Man, that's amazing.
It's a moment from Abbott Elementary right there.
It is exactly that.
That's amazing.
It is. So yeah, and I remember how excited people were because they're like, "Oh, this is the generation that's going to get it right. We're going to have all these features, SS." And I just really want to hit kind of like some of the high points of this generation. The tech that was promised was SSD for fast loading times. On PlayStation was Tempest Audio, so that was going to be like 3D audio. Where Mark blanking on his name, creator of PlayStation, basically he was going to or Mark Cerny, yes, the creator of Knack. He was going to look at your ears and scan your ears to
Oh
give
yeah,
you
for
positional
optimal
3D.
sound, right? Yeah.
Yep. DualSense was bringing haptic feedback, a speaker to your PlayStation controller. What else? The other haptic feedback plus the impulse triggers or whatever they're called them. Add-on disk drives became a thing this generation, which was weird. Like you could snap in or snap off disk drives, which I thought was very weird. And then Xbox brought back memory cards in a way, which is weird.
Yeah.
Wow, so weird, so weird. Yeah, but basically easy storage add-on, kind of like going back to the original Xbox 360, where you could just drop in hard drives, boop, and you've got like the little
Extra
extra brain you
space.
put inside. Yeah, I mean, did I miss anything else with tech that this generation has brought?
What side of tech? Because I mean, then you can get into the internal tech side, like ray tracing, 4K.
Sure.
That
Yeah, you could
that
even
kind
talk
of
about like
stuff.
technology.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you go the ray tracing route was kind of a big push. Faster loading. I guess that's covered technically in the SSD and all that kind of stuff. But I always said this was a generation of convenience rather than necessity. This was taking everything from the PS4, Xbox One era and just saying, you want it faster? Here's some SSDs. You want it to look a little bit better? Here's some ray tracing and some stuff. But like the games were already in 4K. So where are you going to go? You're just going to make them run smoother, run better, run faster, and look a tiny little bit prettier while doing so. And you see that in the tech upgrades. It's like, we're gonna do some cool stuff with audio, I guess. I don't know. Like we'll have a new controller. You don't get like crazy controller features unless you're Nintendo, but like you don't get crazy controller features unless the generation kind of needs a little bit of extra excitement. And PlayStation went that route, and Xbox kind of went like, you can build your own controllers under Design Lab, but also here's Game Pass. So like it was, like they both had like some kind of flashy thing to be like, here's what's cool. And but I definitely think this was more of a convenience drive, because like everyone remembers the long ass like load times, download this,
Oh
that,
yeah.
whatever from Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So this kind of generation was trying to get rid of that.
Yeah, 4K Ultra HD. They also had that like discs, but discs are essentially becoming just a thing to put in your console that says you own the game.
Yeah, give you a code.
You're still installing it. And to that point is the HDMI 2.1 generation, where you do get VRR, you get 4K 120, you get all these extra features if your TV supports it. And quite honestly, we're kind of in that mode. Yeah. So, Jose, when you think about this tech, has it really lived up to the hype? Considering we thought everything was going to be 4K 60, maybe 4K 120.
Yeah. Or well, I could be wrong, and it feels like so long ago at this point. I feel like at some point, even with the Xbox, there was like it could even potentially run 8K. Like I remember that
Oh
claim
yeah,
somewhere.
Sony put it on the box.
Yeah.
8K.
And I was like, but who has an 8K TV? Because I would like them as my friend. And two, like to answer your question, I have two answers. One is that I absolutely do not think that it has lived up to the hype it was for. Like I truly, and I mean that in a I should clarify. My personal answer is it's fine. I've loved this generation. I have very few complaints about this generation. I've been very happy with my purchase, even though I was a day one purchase, and like the story I just told you, where I was like doing it at work and stuff like that. Personally, I've been perfectly happy. But in retrospect, really thinking about what they kind of promised and what we've really seen, I don't think it has really delivered in a way that we'd seen in previous generations. And my personal belief for the reason is the games. And I know we're going to talk about that in a second here, in that I think both Sony and Microsoft were in this weird place where they felt like they had to do another generation, like it had just been too far out from the PS4 and the Xbox One generation, that they're like, we got to do something new. And they weren't even sure where they were going to take their business. And I what I mean by that is I think Xbox was dabbling, based on what we're seeing now, in like, maybe we should focus on mobile, maybe we should focus on internet based gaming, streaming gaming, which at the time probably sounded crazy, right? Because you think about like Google Stadia and how like that was kind of a big failure, and
Oh yeah.
like I'm sure there were all these things of like, they were like, this, I think that's the future, but are you sure? Because if we go that way and it's a flop, like we could be done. And especially coming off the PS4 era, which PS4 just dominated the previous era.
Mhm.
And then I think even PS4, they were kind of like, we're going to just keep doing what we're doing. And I'm sure they had people in their boardroom saying like, we need to change. We need to grow with the times. We need multiplayer games. We need live service games. And we've seen some elements of that where they said we're going to have 10 live service games in the next 20 years. And now they've fully backed off of that. So I think that I don't think they've delivered in the way they intended, but I don't think it was because they were lying to us. I don't think I think they just didn't actually know where they were going. And this was kind of a weird stopgap. And I also think it's also the function of, we've gotten into this cycle of like, we expect a new console every X number of years. And if that didn't happen, people would be, naysaying and doomsaying everything that's happening in the industry. And so in a weird way, it's our problem. Like we did this as the consumers. So that's, it's interesting to see as we get into this mid-gen refresh stuff, what that will do to the market, if anything. Cause like I said, personally, I went to PC and I don't know if I'm going to buy the next Xbox. Like I kind of think I still will, because not all the games are there yet on PC, but like, give it a generation or two. And if everything is day and date on PC on both sides, I don't know if I'd buy another console at that point. We'll see.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
wanted to add something about this too, because this generation is unique in the fact that each of the console owners launched with digital only
Mm-hmm.
solutions. Series S, no disc. PS5 for $400 only lacks a disk drive.
Yeah.
Series S was the entryway that essentially says you're not going to get 4K, but you get everything else.
Yeah. You get close.
It's going to be a digital focused console, which is funny because I think the folks who typically go cheap want to buy used games at GameStop. And so it's like, oh no, you have to download everything you own. You can't trade those in. So it's an interesting
Mhm.
mindset. It's almost like, what was it, the Wii 60 area where you want a Wii and a 360 because
Yep.
you want that game and that you want a system that pairs. And they
Yep.
had the arcade system that was $200, which was like, hey, here's the game. You just put it in, you play. So that was something that was interesting because the Series S also launched a different um, hardware set in regards to features, in regards to um, couldn't do 4K, although some games they could up-res to the thing, but it was at a lower set of features because the Series X was the granddaddy, the highest performing of the consoles. So that was an interesting thing with generation. The other thing that was interesting about this generation, we can go to services now, is they both launched with full backwards compatibility. The Xbox One generation didn't until like 3 years in. They said ever going backwards. So this is the first time where you felt like you didn't have a lack of games to play because all the games you already owned, you could
You
just
just
keep
put them
playing.
back in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you kind of felt like, oh, I got games at home now. I don't need to have these games. So it was a different approach. You weren't starting from scratch. If and your games were carrying forward to you, and I know that was a fear for PlayStation at one, when they were talking about, because like, oh crap, it's going to be like half the games, or it's going to be this, and it's essentially been a wash, and everything's been pretty good. So that's kind of nice, but it's different. It's kind of like PC. If you've got a PC from 2003 and you had a Steam library, your games just still work. And consoles are like that, and Nintendo did that for a while because that would be like the last gen would always work. GameCube would work on the Wii and going forward. So Nintendo carried that forward, and they stopped with Switch. So it's kind of interesting how
Yeah.
we're going with this. So it feels like less of a launch because it feels like a lot of the games. We also kind of came into the Xbox said Xbox One, the first 2 years of the Xbox Series, those games will probably already work on Xbox One. PlayStation said, we believe in generations until the games are coming out slower. We can't sell enough copies because we don't have enough consoles coming out because everybody's buying them up. So we need to sell more copies. So guess what? They're going to be cross gen too. So that's the conundrum, right? Because it's like, well, you could be brave and stick to your guns and only sell like 1 million copies,
Yep.
or you could sell more copies and hey, more bells and whistles on the next gen. So want a quick hit on the services. So the big thing we got on Xbox was quick resume. That was a big win
Yep.
to basically saying up to three. I think it was up to 3 games. Was it that would save your space, your
Your
spot?
progress. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was up
Yeah.
to 3. Was it that right? 3 or 4?
I think it depended on the game because there were some that were bigger that wouldn't. Like if you had a huge game and a small game, it really wouldn't hit that third one. Like they said it would, but in practice, I don't think it.
It was
Sometimes you'd
RAM
lose that
because it
one.
was
Yeah.
limited by your RAM, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it was
Yeah.
storing that in the SSD and the RAM. And I believe live service games, because those games just by nature, you're offline for long, it kicks you out
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a cool feature because PlayStation at this point still has it. You can put your game on rest, but that's the only game you got. So if you want to
Yeah.
play something else, oopsie. We also had backwards compatibility. And then the other part that was interesting, Xbox Gold Live finally died.
Finally went
Games with
home.
Gold finally died. We got Xbox Game Pass Core, which is a conundrum because you don't get Game Pass, but you do get online plus a collection of games,
Yeah.
and it's $60. So, and anybody who wants the hack on that, buy that. Let your Game Pass Ultimate subscription lapse, resubscribe, and buy Game Pass Core for a couple of years. It converts, and you get 2 years for every whatever. So, Todd hack on that if you want to do it. Yeah. Uh, and then we got PlayStation Plus relaunched. Not a great way. They raised prices.
Mhm.
They added 3 levels that essentially the third level that's most expensive was the least requested.
Yeah.
So we have like the PS Plus as you always got it. It went from 60 to 80. Didn't give you anything more, but gave you a couple games every month plus online. It gave you then I believe it again gave you the second tier was premium. I think it's premium plus extra. I can't remember. There's extra and plus. So one of them, I think it's extra, gives you like kind of like a really good selection of, more modern games. It's pretty good. I think that's enough for most people. And then the tier above that is streaming games, a collection of them, not all of them, plus kind of like the old
The
classics
backwards
collection.
catalog, yeah.
Yeah, but those are
Mhm.
so limited that it has not been the value. So I'd always say to people, go extra and max it out, and that's it.
Yep.
Um, so that's kind of where we're at. And I know Xbox finally raised prices on Game Pass Ultimate, except on PC. PC Game Pass, they kept prices the same.
Yep.
So what do you think on services? I feel like we've paid more and really haven't gotten more out of these services. Kind of been the same carryover of last gen, but we're paying more.
Yeah, can't argue there. As someone who just jumped back up to Game Pass Ultimate, I was on Game Pass Core for a while because I was just playing like Fortnite online, and after Starfield came out, it was just kind of like, I don't know, do I re up my subscription? There's not really much on the horizon that I need to play day and date that I won't buy. So I bought a copy of Sea of Thieves so I could still play that because it's not in the core subscription package, and then went core for like what 3 6 months, something like that, and just kind of went back because I found a sale um, right before my core lapsed. So um, yeah, I can't really argue with anything you said.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add other than I do think PlayStation missed a supreme opportunity in not labeling their tiers silver, gold, and platinum. I just do not understand why they did not do
Yes,
like they have the
absolutely.
trophies right in front of them.
Yeah.
So that was a side note. In terms of the services and features, I mean, I did love Quick Resume again. Now that I'm PC, I don't use it as much, but I did love that because I remember even like I think to like the PlayStation 3 era when I played Metal Gear Solid 4 for the first time. Phenomenal game, but I remember literally there's like a 20-minute loading screen. Like literally you'd start the game and it'd be like, why don't you go take a quick break and check? And I was like a little floored that like the game was telling me to take a
Yeah.
break. And it wasn't like a mental health or like go touch grass. It was literally like, we're loading. It's going to be a while. And so coming
Yeah.
off that era, I do think it was really cool to have the quick resume feature. I definitely love that. The backwards compatibility is cool, but I think what I've realized is I don't play that many old games. Like I really don't.
Mm.
And so while it's a nice to have, it's not something that sells me on a system or a service or anything like that. And then Game Pass, I mean, again, this is more my personal belief. Is just before Game Pass existed, I'd easily buy 4, 5, 6 games a year. Like it's pretty standard in my world because this is my hobby. This is what makes me happy. This is how I relax. And so just the math there, I mean, basically Game Pass is like 2 games a year. And so like I was just like, I cannot fathom a world where I wouldn't just pay for this to see
Yeah.
what's out there. And I think that it also let me explore some other games when I have time in the summer and Christmas break and that kind of stuff. But I do agree with what Mark said. Like now on the PC side, even though it's still cheaper a little bit, as I'm buying a lot of like Steam sale stuff and I'm playing a lot of like online service games, I do sometimes wonder like maybe I should just pause it for like a month. I can always re-add it at any time. I mean, it's not like a cable company or a phone company where I'm locked in for 2 years. Um, but I also think to some degree that I feel weirdly guilty of like if I don't support this and it dies, I'm gonna be really pissed that I should have just gave them my 15 bucks. So in the end, I don't think there was anything mind blowing, but I do think it's interesting how like when this generation started, I mean, on the PlayStation side, a lot of people were real down on Game Pass. They thought it was stupid, it was bad value for companies, and then lo and behold, through the generation, we see PlayStation Plus, and it's not lighting the world on fire, but people do like it, right? And this
Yeah.
subscription model does seem to be doing well for both Sony and Microsoft, and I think they're trying to figure out the money piece so that it balances their ledger books, if you will. But in the end, I'm definitely happy we have them on both sides.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely different strategies. PlayStation knows they can charge full price for the games, where Xbox has seen where they struggled with their first party. They knew that they probably couldn't command that, but Game Pass was a great way to go. They could support that. So I think Game Pass is a great service. I think it's just the fact that Xbox has struggled to have consistent first party releases every year. They've kind of like, hey,
Absolutely.
this year's great, next year's not so great. This year's great, not so great. So, and we hope that they're over that hump where they'll have more consistent releases because of their studios. Um, so that gets us to the games. So, when Xbox is on hitting on all cylinders, you got Game Pass, and you're going to get like, they said a game a quarter is their goal. They could probably have even more of that because this year you're going to get, hopefully, Call of Duty with Game Pass.
Yep.
That's what we're thinking. You're going to get Diablo
Next week, right?
4 next week,
Yeah.
which is great. So we're going to get more games, and we haven't even got the Activision games fully unleashed yet. So the Spyro games, the Crash games, all weird old Blizzard games that they'll bring out. Like, was it the what's the game with the dwarves that they have? They have that one game that I loved. It was with he's almost like a 80s killer. Was it Black Rock or something like that? Blizzard made, where you had a shotgun, you'd kill people side scrolling. I'll have to look it up. It's a great game. I played it on my PC, but it was also on the SNES. But they'll go back in their catalog and make some of those games. But we get into the games, folks. So this is fun. So I found a list of essentially, as of right now, on March 18th, these are the games that are exclusive to PS5, not on PS4. Can be on PC, because I do this caveat because most all Xbox games are on PC. So I just said but they aren't on Switch and they aren't on Xbox. Same thing. They're on Xbox, but they're not on PlayStation or Switch. So I looked at these are the games that you bought your awesome consoles for. So for PS5, Astro's Playroom, which comes with the console. For Spoken, FF16, FF7 Rebirth, Spider-Man 2, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Rise of the Ronin, which is coming out this week, Stellar Blade, which comes out in April, has a release date, Helldivers 2, Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut, which includes the expansion. So that's all. The base game is coming to PC. No, the expanded game is coming to PC, but not yet. So I'll eventually remove this. I will keep it on the game because it's on PC, because it's only there. The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 remastered, Death Stranding director's cut. See, I have to put a lot of director's cut. There's a lot of caveats on these. Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Pacific Drive, which is this weird, like, you're driving a station wagon in the apocalypse, but it's only on PlayStation 5. Very weird. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, but that's kind of an interesting mix of games. On Xbox, there's only 6. Starfield, Forza Motorsport, which just came out last year, Hellblade 2, which is coming out in May, Flight Simulator, which came out in 2022, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a new one coming out, I think, later this year. Stalker 2, which is coming out in September. That's a timed exclusive. Will eventually go to PlayStation as well. And Warhammer 40,000 Dark Tide. You look at these games after 4 years and you say, has this generation really lived up? I mean, we've gotten some great, like, third-party games too, because obviously those third-party games don't appear on last gen either. So, but if you said if next gen is all about the exclusives, I think we're kind of fooling ourselves a little bit. I don't think it really matters unless you really have a game that you have to have on these consoles. And if you own a PC, don't worry. That's where you should be gaming.
And I was gonna say, like, I think you're stretching it a little bit with the director's cuts and that kind of thing.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying. That's
for
exactly right,
PC,
Mark.
a lot of this stuff is over there or coming over there or whatever. I don't think this is the exclusive generation. I think, again, and Microsoft openly admits that they are fully in on PC and Xbox day and date. They're fully in on this hits Game Pass. You can play this on your phone if you don't want a console or a PC. Just buy Game Pass Ultimate and stream the damn thing. Like, they don't care anymore where you're playing, and that's really, really showing in their exclusives. And even more so now that they've just announced those, 6 games going to PlayStation, like Sea of Thieves and whatever else.
Pentiment. And
yeah,
Grounded,
right.
right?
And
Hi-Fi
like, they
Rush
just
came out tomorrow.
Hi-Fi Rush is so, like, they just straight up don't care. So, like, if you're buying anything for exclusives, like, this ain't the generation for you, like, it's just not.
Yeah, I remember when Halo came out on PC, and that was a big deal. It's like, wow. And now when Xbox went all PC, that became like and I thought about that at one point. I'm like, oh, maybe I should just get a PC. My PC crapped the bed. That changed my plans. But I do believe eventually we're going to get like a Steam box where it's a Windows-based PC that is only geared as a console, but it
Mm,
has Xbox UI, but also has
yeah.
Steam on it. So if you can
Hmm.
get Steam and Xbox Game Pass games on it, I mean, and it's cheap, and you can put it next to your TV for like $500 to $600 because a Steam Deck is essentially that, but it
Yep.
has a screen
It's
and it
portable.
runs Linux. But we are getting versions, so I think we're there, and I think Xbox wants to be that way. They want PC to be their heavy hitter box, and they want to have the cloud and other ways to do that. PlayStation, I don't know what they're doing. I don't. I mean, they have we heard they've got some issues with cost. They've killed some games. They don't have the deep pockets that Xbox has to experiment and play some and do some different things that I worry about their future. And then Switch essentially, as long as Nintendo can keep making exclusives and they can keep finding 5-year-olds to play Fortnite, um, they're
Yeah.
okay. And
Fair.
that's exactly where they're at. So they don't have to even worry about it because they'll always have people that want those games in a cheap and affordable fashion. So um, I am curious though because Xbox has a really good year ahead of it. If all those games come out, they've got Avowed, they've got the Indiana Jones game.
Yeah.
What else am I missing? Because we've got Hellblade and Stalker 2, plus Call of Duty if that comes out in Game Pass. I mean,
Yeah.
Xbox is geared up for a really good
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. The only thing I will add to that is that again, it has been a weird generation because like every generation before it, and all of us here in this room right now, like we've grown up generation after generation, you're used to a console launching, and at least historically, for I don't want to speak for you two, but like for myself, I was never buying both consoles or all three consoles. It was like this generation
Yeah.
I'm going with the 360, and this generation I'm going with the PS4. Like you have to make those conscious choices, and for myself, a lot of that really was dictated by what my friends were getting because that's really where my happiness is. And like, if all my buddies said we're going Microsoft so we can play Halo, okay, cool. I'm gonna buy an Xbox. If we're all going PlayStation because of God of War, cool. Then we're all going PlayStation. And so, but we're all used to this experience where when the console launches, you usually get, I don't know, 4 to 8 timed games that are kind of various different genres that like it's your showcase, right? So you're going to get this and you can play it day one. What are you picking up to play first? And we didn't get that with this. I think they kind of
No.
wanted to, but I think with like COVID and manufacturing and like the financial piece, like we're learning all this stuff right now about how like expensive like Spider-Man 2 was 200 million to make and they made 220. That's awesome. But like from a studio accounting perspective, like that's a lot of work to make $20 million, and
Yeah.
that's an insane amount of money. But for a big studio, it's a drop in
Yeah.
the bucket. And so I think that they kind of had this. They were all at the beginning of this generation trying to figure out what they were going to do next, and we're now seeing some of that come out. I think the PlayStation. With Jim Ryan leaving, and I don't want to put it all on him. PlayStation's a huge company. There are lots of people that make decisions, but like he was very much, it seems like, in that let's go live service, and that's where we're going to put all our ducats. And he's now realizing like maybe that wasn't a great idea, and instead they're kind of now backtracking. They're looking at PC, they're looking at putting their games in other places because that's kind of what Xbox has been doing. And while it's not hit every time, they're seeing a lot of growth with it. Like the Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves
Yeah.
on Switch has been great. The PC stuff has been growing there, and I agree with you, Todd. I think I got to give credit to Joseph Moran on the Trophy Room. We had him on our show like a year ago, and he said, "quote unquote," like it's not about the box, guys. Like I know that
Nope.
because he's a PlayStation show, we're an Xbox show, and like
Mhm.
you'd think that we just like talk trash, and we do playfully, like on Twitter and stuff. But like at the end of the day, he sees it, we see it. That like by the time my children are in like high school and college, I don't even know if we'll have consoles. Like Todd said, maybe we'll have a Steam box. Like I really think we're gonna get to the point where like TVs will have a built-in chip that you just pair a controller and you're streaming your games. You just have to pay for the Netflix-esque subscription.
Yeah.
I can see that now. It's not there yet. Like we still have some technical hurdles we have to get over, bandwidth caps. Like there are a lot of issues that they're gonna have to work through, but
Mhm.
it's closer than it's ever been. And I when you see this list for people that watch the show, or if you see Todd's notes, like it looks obviously like PlayStation is dominating this generation. And I think they have put out some great games, no joke. But I think that this generation is far from over. And I don't know if we'll even be talking about generations, quote unquote, anymore after like 5 years. It's just going to be a very interesting future overall, and I'm here for it. I'm excited, but it's very disruptive in a way that we're just not used to in our experience.
You brought up a very you brought up a very good point of why you choose generations in the past. Why you choose why you choose consoles per each generation in the past, and it's either been that exclusives or what your friends are playing or where your friends are playing and that kind of stuff. And this was the first generation that I didn't care what my friends were doing or where my friends were playing because of games like Fortnite, where it didn't matter if they were on a Switch, a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, an Xbox, whatever, PC. I play with people from all across there, and most of my multiplayer gaming time is on Fortnite.
Even on phones now, right? And Warzone, what, 2 weeks goes to mobile too, right?
Yeah.
Crossplay, Discord. It's kind of yeah.
This generation, no joke, I've talked about it on the show before, was largely determined for me by my hatred of the PlayStation controller. I tried a PlayStation 4.
It's still a lot there, yeah.
I tried the PlayStation 4. I hate the 2 sticks at the bottom. Just the Xbox controller is better in every single way, minus maybe the whatever you call those little funny
haptic triggers.
The haptic triggers and that shit.
Man, you guys are so lame.
That's
Logan has no problem with shipping. I have no problem with shipping. I'm like, I don't know why people have such a difficult time going from. I play both, and I'm like, difficult. It's exactly the same to me.
I prefer one. It's not. I'm not like, oh no, what do I do? The sticks on the. I'm not like, it's not a difficulty. It's a one's clearly better and the other is garbage, kind of thing.
I mean, I'd be lying, Mark. I have my Elite right here. I'm Xbox controller all the way, man. Like this is my favorite controller. But I also like Todd. I don't hate the DualSense. I don't talk about it in forums.
We all know the Stadia controller is the best controller ever.
That is nice. Clearly the one. That is right up there with the Wii U Pro controller. Perfect stuff. But no joke, like I actually do prefer the Xbox controller, and was just like, you know what? If I'm going to be playing Fortnite with my friends, I want, Xbox. I love the Gears of War series. I eventually had all the consoles last generation. I started off with the Wii U, PS4, and eventually got my Xbox One. And fell in love with Sea of Thieves and the Gears franchise again and all that kind of stuff. And then was just like, oh, these controllers are so much better. And that was a big determining factor in if I'm going to be playing Fortnite, I'm going to be playing with a controller that I find comfortable and a little bit quicker to respond or whatever to how I like to play. And that was a weird realization this time around. That was a weird thing of maybe this is the future of this could be a dongle. Give me the controller that I want and just let me play what I want, where I want. Bringing it back to Todd's point, just let me choose a controller and then just pair it with my TV or whatever. I'm good to go.
Yeah, Apple on their devices allows you to do a Bluetooth controller. You can do DualSense or Xbox, maybe even a Switch controller. PC,
you can do the Switch.
Same thing there. On Steam, I can use either. They have profiles for it, and now they're supporting the DualSense features on PC. So that's what I'm saying. It's ultimately, we shouldn't let 2 sticks in their area be it's the end all be all. I'm spending $1,000 on that because we're the sticks lay. It's just kind of, if people heard us say that and they're like, seriously, you guys are
crazy.
Yep, we are. Yep, that's what it's all about.
I was hoping to get some Discord comments from that one.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if future generations said, why do you need a console? Why?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're headed. Because
my grandkids one day will be like, why did you buy consoles? And be like, okay, have a seat. Story time.
It's I have to buy a DVD player to watch certain movies, HD DVD versus Blu-ray. It's what is even going on? It's kind of silly.
Grandpa Todd's acting up again.
Exactly.
Let me tell you about the Zune, kids.
Oh,
Uh,
exactly, exactly. Oh my god, I could tell you about the old Android phones that didn't even support Google Maps. T-Mobile Click, anyone? Yeah, good times. But and I think this is where and I just one thing I wanted to hit on because we are getting talks about a PlayStation 5 Pro, and it is interesting because I think the console players are kind of in a way, we're so fixated on what we've been doing over time versus like what technology is doing, where every year Apple has a new phone. Every year Google has a new phone. And no one like, oh, we shouldn't have one. We should the same phone we had in 2020 should last us until 2028. Nobody shames or gets mad or because the apps still work on those old phones. They still play, but you realize getting the newer phone it'll feel a little snappier. It'll do maybe a little extra
New
things, but you can
features, new
still
lenses.
play those old games. PlayStation 4 didn't suffer because of PS4. Xbox One didn't suffer from Xbox One X. So I always think it's funny when people get mad about it. I'm like, but don't people upgrade their tech in other areas? And if as long as it doesn't hurt the old tech, is it just people just being mad and being the old man shaking his head in at the cloud? Because I'm
yes.
dumb. I like things that play better. If I can get 60 frames per second 4K on a better box that comes out 4 years after I bought my original box and I want to pay for it, why shouldn't I be able to do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
It's weird. Would people have wanted the Switch Pro? Yes, they did want the Switch
Oh,
Pro,
absolutely.
but they got an OLED screen instead.
Yeah.
Still
And people bought it
we're
because it's nicer, but they
I
still
did
I mean,
wanted.
too.
nicer. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the right answer.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
bought
buy two
mine.
of them or anything.
I bought mine, and it's right here. And yeah, so I don't know anything because I mean we could go on this forever. So at this point, any parting words on this generation? I mean, I've heard rumors. Do you think where do you think this generation is going? Do you think anybody's going to pivot, do something different, or are we going to just repeat what we did last gen with the PS4 and Xbox One? So go ahead, Jose.
I don't know, man. I mean, I would have said if you'd have asked me this like 3 months ago, that it would be the same. We're going to see a mid-gen refresh, and then in like 3 to 4 years, we're going to see the next console. And I still do think that's probably most likely to happen. Where I get a little bit caught up is like in comments from like Sarah Bond when she did that thing a couple weeks ago that was like the podcast, and her exact words were like, "Our next hardware is going to be the biggest technological leap that we've ever seen." That could mean lots of different things, to be fair. I wouldn't expect that I don't think we're gonna see an Xbox handheld that rivals the power of a Series X that has 8-hour battery life. Like, I would love that. That's amazing. I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I think they're basing that probably on like computing power, like teraflops and stuff. But still, I think what we've heard from all of the vendors is that I think consoles are going to still be here for a while. I really do. And what I always have to tell myself when we talk about these kinds of things is like, this is my world. Like, we run a podcast that's video game centric. I am on Discord all day and I read the nerd news and I play video games every night. Like, this is my world. So I pay attention a lot more. But for the average gamers, like the people who only play like Madden every year, or there are people who play because their kid now wants to play Halo, and I guess I played Halo when I was a kid, let's go buy a system. Like, the average consumers, if either console maker, I guess including Nintendo too, just decided to stop making consoles, people would consider that as them pulling out of the race. And so
Yeah.
I think there's that element of like, you have to remember that there's a bigger world than just us fanatics out there. And so while we may be moving on to PC, and where we can clearly see the path going into this like model where things are streaming and the box doesn't matter and you're playing with the controller you choose on potentially like a TV and stuff, I do think that's the future. But all the companies are going to have to be very careful about how that's marketed and how it works, because the other part is like, if, let's just say theoretically, Xbox, their next console wasn't that, they said, you know what, we're now just selling a controller. The controller pairs with every TV in North America, and you can stream every game you own. Because even Phil said recently that by the end of this year, we're supposed to be able to stream the games that we own remotely, not just the ones in Game Pass streaming, but like our own library. Awesome. So let's say they go all in on that, but then the servers can't keep up, right? Or something happens and it's basically a flop even for a month. That could kill them. Like literally, people never come back. And so
Or you're sitting
while
in a
it's
hotel room with 3 megabytes per second, and you're like,
yeah,
"Why can't I
I,
play my game?"
you said I
Yeah,
could do this. Why can't I do this? And so
yeah,
I think we're still generations out from that kind of reality, but I do think that they're having to plan for that now. And so that's this weird predicament time of like we have to keep making consoles so that we stay relevant and we make revenue and we still make games, but we also have to build this like 10-year future, which like in tech world is like you're basically a crystal ball, right? Like what's going to happen in 10 years. So I
Yeah.
think it's challenging. Again, in the short term, I think we're going to basically get an upgraded box. You know, if the Series X was like, I think it was like 12.9 teraflops when it came out. So okay, we're going to go to 28, right? So that's the biggest jump that we've ever seen, and that's awesome. That's substantial, but it's not really lighting the world on fire. Like it means we might finally get ray tracing, and we might finally get um, maybe we get an extra slot in our uh, quick resume or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be significant, but not world changing. I think is what's going to happen, and then in a generation from now, I don't know. Things could be much more interesting, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I think the next upgrade is not having to worry about that slider or button that says performance
Ooh,
or uh,
quality.
or quality.
fidelity.
That's going to go away, and you can do both at the same time. Cool. Like that's great. Until you hit, like right now, you have to choose that for 4K. Maybe at 4K it can do both, but at 8K you still have that stupid slider, right? Like I think that's kind of where we're going. It's these little incremental upgrades for like, yeah, like that kind of stuff. I think you're right on. I don't think there's going to be like everything's in 3D and you don't need a TV anymore because it hollow projects in front of you onto your living room without glasses. Like it's just, like we're not getting that kind of stuff just in that terms of like generational, like insane, like tech advancement kind of thing. So we'll enjoy the nerdy little things, but yeah, the games are still going to be the games.
I'm a old school PC fan. The specs will always get higher for games. The games will always get more demanding. So Mark, to your point, I think you'll still have like I think we may even get more PC specific where you have more sliders, depending on what you
More
want.
sliders.
Because the floor is only gonna you're gonna raise the floor, the bar is gonna be raised high. So what I'm
Yeah.
hoping is we don't have to be at like we're still doing 1080 anymore. But you could say like I
Right.
always want to be at 4K 30 or 60 or whatever. I think that's going to never change because, you know, PC struggled with that. They want to get 1440 to do 350 frames per second. A lot of people, I'd rather screw resolution and go 400 frames per second. I don't know if that's even possible, but that's what they want. I think as I look at this generation, I think Sony's going to play the same game unless something drastically changed where they'll have a new system out in 2028. I think what would benefit Xbox is to do what they did with the 360 era is jump out ahead.
Yeah.
Launch not at the same time as Sony and have everybody be offset. Again,
They should have done that
for
10 years ago. Like give it a
Nintendo
3-year offset.
exactly, Nintendo always goes offset. Why does it matter if the worst thing you can do is put Sony and PlayStation next to each other or Sony and Xbox next to each other because they are so similar now that there's not enough differentiators in their tech because now they're both essentially PCs. It doesn't make any sense. Have them filtered so then you can say, okay, well, I'll still play my PlayStation exclusives, but the third parties will shine on Xbox. So I'm going to play there, like
It doesn't
Madden and
always work
everything.
though. You look
Yeah.
at Dreamcast and it's like, everyone saw what the Dreamcast was doing. It's like,
Well,
screw it. I'm going to
Sega
wait a
was a
year or
bad,
two for
but
PlayStation.
Sega was a company, you know,
I'm just
on
saying,
its
there's
last
that
legs.
precedent that's like, I don't know,
Yeah,
man. PlayStation's coming out with some crazy shit in a year. I'm gonna wait, or like, or vice versa. It's like you play that like waiting game. It's like, oh, something
correct.
better's coming along. Something's
But
better.
Xbox
And
360, you saw how the tables turned,
right,
and
right.
like, oh, Gears of War, this game, this game, this game. Oh, and I think That's the differentiator. But if we keep doing this, like everybody launches at the same time, you're splitting the same audience essentially, and
Yeah.
you're talking about split sticks. Whereas Nintendo said, so what I would love to see, I would love to see Nintendo say, "Hey, you want your games on a handheld? Port them to our system.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want awesome looking Nintendo games, somebody else is going to make a box that can put out Nintendo games." That's what an ideal state would be. Handheld Nintendo owns the handheld world, and all the games go to handheld. If you want to see them at the highest resolution on a big box, 8K, you're not held back by the tech, and you can put a Nintendo controller on another system. That's where they go. That's what ideal state would be. But it's never going to happen. But that's what I would love, because I hate that Nintendo's games are always held back by the
Hardware.
cost and things like that, because we've seen other things, and I hate the fact that Nintendo feels like they don't want to play ball. I just would love it. Hate it. I would love everybody to be on where they want to be, unless Nintendo does something so weird and strange. But I just don't know what weird thing they can bring in that'll be like, oh, it's so awesome, I could never do that anywhere else. So I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But it's going to cost us a lot of money, gentlemen. That's all I'll say.
Start
Our
saving
wallet.
now.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Who thought a PS5 Pro would launch before the Switch 2? That's a weird world, guys. We're in a strange world. Okay. Well, that is it for this week's show. Hopefully you enjoyed the journey. I appreciate everyone who stuck with us. But at this point, Jose, thank you so much for joining us.
My
Tell
pleasure,
people where they
guys.
can find you.
You can find me lots of places. Chipotle Bear is most of the time where it's at, except on Twitter/X. It's Chipotle_Bear because Chipotle Bear was taken. You can also find me every week. We record on and stream on Thursday nights at 7:00 Mountain Standard Time. The Nerd Chat. Check us out on YouTube and of course any podcast service. But for you two gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. Truly, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys, talking about nostalgia and the future of games, and absolutely love the show, all the shows that you guys do. If this is the first time you're hearing me here, make sure to give these guys a follow, sub to them on Patreon. This is great content, man. This is the video game space can be a very toxic space, especially on social media. And so it's really wonderful to find nice, genuine, reasonable people, which of course you two are. So thank you for having me here. And, if you guys ever want to come on Nerd Chat, you're always welcome here as well.
Sweet.
I think that's the kindest kind of statement I would say. We're reasonable and we aren't crazy. I like that.
I like it.
Yeah. Mark has never called me reasonable or not crazy, so
That's because I've known you for a while.
It's implied.
That's
true.
You're
well,
great,
Jose.
Todd. I love you.
Yes, we love each other. Jose, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. You are a gentleman. You're an educator. Much respect to you and raising your kids right. So appreciate you. And check out everything that Jose does. We'll put all of the ways you can connect with him in the notes of the podcast. So, Mark, where can people follow you?
You can find me at Canardian_gamer or Canardian_Jedi, depending on which faction of my interests you want. But most people listening to this one, I think, will be Canardian_gamer. Jose, I just followed you on both accounts. So there we go, on Instagram, because that's my main place of choice. But you can also find me over on TikTok and, of course, in the Secret Friends Unite Discord group.
Very, very good. I'm confused with Mark. I think, I find you wherever you're wearing a Tyrannosaurus Rex costume and holding a lightsaber, pretty much. For myself, I'm on Threads at Teoxtra, at Secret Friends Unite, also still on Twitter, just to stay there, for representation there, at Teoxtra and at Secret Friends U. Please check us out, and also our Discord and also our Patreon. Appreciate it so much. So with that, gentlemen, thank you so much. And remember, it's always better to game together.